Hello everyone and welcome to We Need to Talk About Movies podcast. So this week we are talking about Midsommar, which is the 2019 folk horror written and directed by Ari Aster. It's a bit like The Wicker Man, isn't it? The modern day Wicker Man, really, isn't it?
It's something, all right.
Have you ever seen The Wicker Man?
I haven't actually seen it.
That's what it gets compared to, but it works on a lot of different levels than that. The only thing is this is a horror film without jump scares, without dark and shadows. All of the horror really takes place in dazzling sunshine, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah.
From the very beginning, it's haunting, isn't it? The first thing you see is actually a mural, isn't it?
Yeah.
It basically, if you looked at that mural, it gives away the entire plot.
Yep.
Which we are going to do, by the way. If you haven't seen it already, we are going to spoil this plot. But then the mural opens up and you hear this haunting music and see this really beautiful shots of wintry vistas, which you're just getting comfortable watching, and then all of a sudden it's broken by a really loud telephone ring, and it's the lead character Danny, played by Florence Pugh, phoning her sister, trying to get hold of her parents and her sister. I tell you what, I did write a little synopsis.
Give us a synopsis.
After the tragic death of her family, tormented Danny tags along with her spineless boyfriend and his friends as they visit a ritualistic midsummer festival in Sweden where all is not what it seems. So,
yeah, it definitely wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
Let's hear your thoughts then, Nath. Let's hear how you was processing this, because I know you don't like this sort of film. And
well, the setup for why they're all going to Sweden, I think that part of the film was unnecessarily long, if I'm honest. Once they got to Sweden, I actually started enjoying the film.
Really? Because I like the build-up, because I think it's a good way of getting the characters in. She was really good, really tormented, wasn't she? You know, what a fucking shit start to the film she has.
Yeah.
Losing her family in like a most horrendous way, and just her wailing and the way she's crying, it's so painful and heartfelt.
Yeah.
And then her boyfriend, Christian, Jack Reiner, he's just so fucking spineless. He just wants it done, doesn't he? But he can't now. He feels trapped in this relationship.
Yeah.
And I just love the reaction, like his friends, Will Poulter, he plays Mark in there.
Yeah.
Especially, it's so awkward between them because they're all talking about going to Sweden to this festival, and Christian's like hasn't told his girlfriend, and they're like, "You're going to tell her?" "Oh yeah, I'm going to dump her," you know. And then he can't dump her, and then she finds out at the party that they're going. It's all awkward, and he always makes it more awkward than it has to be, doesn't he? Because he can't just say, "Oh, we're doing this."
Yeah.
And then he invites her and makes out he was going to invite her all along, just so he doesn't look like a bastard. I mean, every argument they have, he tries to turn it around to her, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And you think she's feeling all this pain, and he's all she's got, completely all she's got, and he keeps turning it back to her, making her feel guilty for him being a spineless cunt. I don't know, I love that build-up, because it really just, the character's great, working them out.
Yeah, I get its purpose. I mean, it's meant to feel awkward, and it does feel awkward. It just felt quite slow-paced. But like you say, they do need to set up Christian to make the rest of the film work.
And it sets up the other characters as well, because their friend Pelle, who is the one who's inviting them, he's the resident of the Swedish community where he's going to take them for their festival. Then you've got Josh, William Jackson Harper, playing Josh, and he's like the academic, isn't he? He's the one who really wants to go. It's because of his feces that they're going there, isn't it?
His thesis.
He's really into going.
Yeah.
And then you got Will Poulter, who's just like thinks he's going to go over there and shag loads of birds. I just think his character's brilliant.
Yeah.
I've always thought this guy is great. I've seen him in a few things. The first film I ever saw him in was Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the Narnia film.
Yeah, Eustace.
And he plays the little shit weasel cousin, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know? And he's a real git in that as well.
I liked him in We Are the Millers.
Oh, yes. I do remember. Yes, he is in that. Yeah, he is good.
Such an awkward kid in that. Doesn't he get stung on the testicle or something?
It's something like that.
Does he get swollen? But I thought William Jackson Harper's character as Josh, I thought he was a brilliant actor. I thought he really sort of, for me, I really enjoyed his performance in this.
Yeah.
I think Christian, Jack Reiner, plays a great shit. You know, you really enjoyed not liking his character. Danny, Florence Pugh. Is it Pugh? Is that how we're pronouncing that?
I think that's Pugh, yeah. Or Pug.
Puff.
Puff.
Florence Puh was great. I enjoyed her. Thought it was a really good performance from everyone that was in it. The first real shock of the film really did shock me how graphic it was when they're all up on the rocks. Jesus.
Yeah, when the ceremony's kicking off. Yeah.
Fuck. It's a lot brighter than what I really thought it was going to be.
That's what makes it so strange to watch it, isn't it? And I mean, as you watch a horror film, your characters are trapped. They're claustrophobic sceneries and shadowy settings where things could be lurking. This is just open landscape, vibrant, bright colours. It's almost whitewashed. That scene on the cliffs, on the rocks, is almost whited out, isn't it?
Yeah. I love the scene where they turn up in the car, first of all, and they just sort of ditch the car and get out, and they're in a field surrounded by like young people just eating mushrooms and getting off their heads. I love the scene where they're all sat around the tree off their heads on mushrooms. That was cool.
But that was another scene where they're dishing out the mushrooms, and she doesn't want to be doing mushrooms, does she? You know?
No.
Not with her frame of mind. So she says to him, like, to Christian, no, I won't do any, you do them. And then he's like, oh, well, I'll do them with you later, so we come up together. You can't see that she doesn't care if she doesn't do them.
Yeah.
And then Mark's like, well, we're all going to do them together. You can't come up at different times. So then she's, again, cornered into having to submit again. Every time any decision that Christian should just take a stand, it just makes it more awkward for her, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But it's when she's off her head and sort of when she looks down, it was brilliant, sort of seeing the grass coming through her hand.
Yeah,
I just enjoyed that scene because I think they nailed it, like people sort of being off their heads and sort of spinning out.
The visual element of this film, some real great imagery throughout.
All of the buildings in this, as well as the fact that the architecture is fucking brilliant, but they managed to make all of the buildings look really sinister somehow. It's a weird sensation when you're looking at it because it's got that sort of bright, happy, cheerful festival sort of visual is in the colour palette, but then like everything in it just seems so sinister. The moment you get to Sweden, it just feels creepy as fuck. You can't get comfortable. It's not like a film that makes you feel really uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable enough to sort of keep you waiting, like you can't relax because you're afraid something's going to happen.
It's like a cult, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the way they sort of surround Danny, especially like in the later scenes, but even the way that Pele talks to her, you know, even before they go, and I really want you there, you know, and he's drawn a picture of her with the headdress on, and he knows she's lonely and he can relate to that. And his body language is much more open to her and comforting to her. It's like an indoctrination into a cult. They hone in on you being lonely and vulnerable.
Yeah. The film is obviously focused around the main character, Danny, and you're constantly wondering what's going to happen to Danny, what she's going to face, you know. And you think about horror films and you think normally, you know, you get the girl that's being pursued or chased or whatever, or tormented. And you're expecting her to have some sort of fight or battle or run away or chase with something. But her battle is psychological all the way through the film, isn't it? It's not, there's no physical chase or torment. It is all fighting mentally with what's going on in her world and how she makes sense of it, isn't it?
Yeah, like the end, just to have that end shot where she's surrounded in all the flowers. The film ends with the first grin she's had on her face throughout the whole film, you know, the first smile. But you sort of feel at the end watching it, it's like, is that a happy ending? Is she found peace now? Or is she the villain? You know, it gets you questioning everything. And then you just think, is she safe still? The film ends there with her smiling, like she's accepted it.
Yeah.
But you don't know that she's safe because the only other time you see previous May Queens, they're in photos. No time have they introduced her to... This was last year's May Queen, you know? So where are the May Queens gone?
Yeah.
Is she safe at the end? I'm not so sure.
The film leaves you with more questions than it answers.
Yeah, but that's what I love about a film.
For me, the end of the film, for me, felt like her rebirth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's what I got from it in previous watches, previous views.
Yeah. But so she's like completely freed from all of her shackles, and the worst one of all was the uncertainty that she was getting from Christian. And I think in the end she sort of frees herself from it. But although he is a dick all the way through, I don't really feel that he deserved the end that he got. But got to be honest, it's confusing all the way through, isn't it? It confuses how you feel about everything. And that's what is good about the film, I'm sure.
And I love the thought watching them and coming away thinking, why is that?
It's the scariest thing about it for me is the fact that shit like that could be real.
Yeah.
When you see something that's so far-fetched and unbelievable in a film and you're like, right, well, that's not real. There's no way. You're not afraid of it in real life. You're only afraid of it for the time that you're watching the film.
Yeah.
But shit like this is probably going on somewhere in the world to a degree in some form. And that is fucking scary.
I mean, let's talk about some of the things going on at the festival, because there's stuff going on in the background. The third time now watching it, and I notice things sort of preparing in the background. You see things that come in later.
Yeah.
That you perhaps didn't take notice of.
Right, yeah.
I mean, one of the blindingly obvious bits is where they just notice the bear in the cage.
Yeah.
And they walk past the bear, and they don't really make a big thing of it, do they?
Yeah. I think I
think it's the English bloke just...
Yeah, it's like, is nobody going to mention the bear?
Yeah, they're hacking apart a wooden horse, and then they start burying it in one scene as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wailing, isn't there? And a lot of exhaling breath. And it's very strange, isn't it?
There's a lot going on that makes you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah. But what makes me feel more uncomfortable is when these ceremonies are going on, it's not the ceremonies themselves, but it's the way that Mark, for instance, is reacting to them all.
Yeah.
And I just feel, oh, God, don't make a scene. Just fucking try and fit in.
Yeah, don't provoke it.
A few of them there. Josh is really watching everything.
Yeah.
Danny is sort of open to trying things, isn't she? And she's the only one who speaks the language back to them at the beginning when they're saying hello.
Yeah.
And she remembers the words. And in the ceremonies, she's picking up the drink at the right time, and everyone else is sort of like, do I do this? Do I, Yeah. And then that Will Poulter's like going, fucking, I'm so hungry. They just make everything disgusting. And he's constantly just criticising the whole thing, isn't he? And that made me feel uncomfortable watching him be so
offensive when he pisses on the ancestral tree. And even then, sort of, rather than be really apologetic about it, he's just a real ignorant prick about the whole thing.
And it's like when they come back from the ceremony on the rock.
Yeah.
And Mark didn't go, did he?
No.
And he's sat on his phone, and you can hear him watching some YouTube video, and it's all about severed penises, and his reaction when he finds out you missed it isn't like, oh my God, that's awful. You made me miss the best bits. How did you let me sleep through that? But then going back to the friendships, Mark, Christian and Josh is there. He knows what he's doing. He's sort of obsessed with this topic anyway. And then Christian, I don't know what I'm doing my thesis on. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to do it on this. And then Josh is like, what the fuck do you mean? This is what I'm doing, and that's a real awkward scene as well. And you just think, God, Christian, you're just such a fucking prick. You just want to slap him, don't you? Constantly throughout the film.
You find it hard to believe that he's got friends in the first place, but then you can kind of understand why he'd have a friend like Mark, because Mark is a fucking dick anyway.
Yeah.
But the sort of Pele, you kind of understand, he's not part of the group to be friends, he's just bringing people home to sacrifice. Josh and Danny are the two anomalies, aren't they?
Yeah, I just think he doesn't have any direction, Christian, does he?
No.
Just a shit.
Slimy little shit. Yeah. And that building, that communal building that they all sleep in as well, that was fucking creepy.
And all the murals on the wall and the runes. And when they come across to the story, what's this? This is a love story.
Yeah.
And then you see the drawings, and it's a girl falls in love with a boy, and then she trims her bush, menstruates into a broth, and then feeds it to the boy.
Yeah.
And then later on, of course, the little redhead girl puts the rune under Christian's bed.
Yeah.
And then her pie is separate to everyone else's. And then when he's eating the pie, and he finds a pube in there, and that Mark's like, what the fuck is that? And even if you look at all the drinks, they've all got an orange drink except for Christian's, which is slightly a darker red drink.
It's just wrong. And then they get him off his head, don't they? Because that's the thing, like, even though he's a prick, when he's unfaithful to Danny, you kind of feel he's been set up for this ever since he turned up. This isn't necessarily his fucking choice. If I went into a weird room where there's a naked chick led in the middle of it, surrounded by a load of other naked women, and I'm being told that I need to fuck this woman on the floor whilst everybody watches and chants and sings at me, and then some other woman's going to stare right in my eye whilst I'm doing it, telling me to finish.
And then an old lady is going to be pushing your buttocks.
Yeah, pushing your buttocks to make sure you... I don't think I'm going to finish. I mean, that's not the way I saw group sex going down. I think he deserves a little bit of a get out of jail free card on that one, if I'm honest, because I don't think he was really acting under his own impulse.
It makes you wonder, did Pele know that Danny's sister was going to do that? You know, how did he pick her all along? If you look at the opening mural at the beginning,
yeah,
and in the very first shot, you've got 3 dead bodies connected to a skeleton on a pipe, along a pipe.
Yeah.
Which symbolises Danny is surrounded by her dead sister and her dead parents. The next image, the girl who we assume is Danny is crying, and then you've got Christian behind her comforting her. But then up in the tree, you've got Pele drawing. And then the next scene, Pele is like the Pied Piper blowing a pipe, leading all his friends there. And like Mark is dressed in a jester's outfit.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's all spelt out. The ceremony and the cliff, with the angels falling off the cliff. Everything is there in the first 30 seconds of the film.
Yeah.
But you don't notice it. But there's things all throughout the film that sort of foreshadow what is coming. When you're in Christian's flat, there's a picture of the scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz on the fridge.
Yeah.
And then there's like a scarecrow puppet on the side. And yeah, they all become scarecrows later on, don't they?
Yeah.
When Danny is mourning her sister, the picture behind them is a little girl kissing a bear's nose, a big giant bear.
Yeah.
And, you know, the bear comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love having something you can read as you're going into it again and again. Each time you watch it, there's more there to look at. I like that sort of thing.
When the people start disappearing, and the scene where Josh is trying to get pictures of the books at night.
Yeah.
Is that a character wearing Mark's face as a mask?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
And then...
they've skinned Mark.
Yeah. And then some fucking weird inbred fucker comes in and beats Josh over the back of the head with a hammer. It's just like, fuck. And there's no more real explanation other than that.
No, well, you see like the oracle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is like the deformed child doing the painting.
Yeah.
And then they translate whatever he's writing, and they need a deformed child in every generation. And they said, like, what happens when he dies? Oh, we'll make another one, you know? It's all done by inbreeding to breed this mutated child.
It is fucked up. You get more and more creeped out by the community the longer you're there. And obviously that's designed to happen. But they all seem so happy about everything and so bubbly and so welcoming. It's just, it confuses the brain. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? You keep struggling to believe that they could be so warped.
Yeah.
But then you're sort of, it's almost like it's trying to get your brain to give them forgiveness because it's just a commune, it's just what they believe. But then you're like, have they intentionally brought these people in from the outside without really caring about who they fuck they are just to sacrifice them? And what kind of fucked up commune does that? Your brain jumps all over the place with not knowing who's the bad guy, who's not, whether you're empathizing with these characters or whether you're feeling anger towards them or not. And just... yeah, it's really uncomfortable from start to finish.
The scene on the rocks with the 2 elders.
Yeah.
Just to see them falling from that cliff.
Yeah.
In such a wide angle. It just looks real, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's no dramatic shots. There's no theatrical music. It's just, you feel like you've witnessed it, don't you?
Yeah.
And then just to see him smash on the rocks below. And then the old man come down and land on his legs. He's not even dead at the bottom.
Yeah, he fucked it right up, didn't he? Yeah.
And then they bring out the hammer.
Oh my God, that's the worst part, when they're smashing his head with a hammer. Fucking Jesus.
But then I'd say I don't like gore, but it's sort of done quite well. It's swift, isn't it? It's not focusing on it. Oh, I don't know. It's just horrible. It's not very nice.
It's short enough and sharp enough to get the point across, but at the same time, it's just fucking
haunting.
I guess also, it's short enough as well, so you're not looking at the detail too much of it. It's just enough to sort of, you get the point of it and then it's gone again. But fuck me, yeah. Didn't want to see any more of that, really, if I'm honest.
Well, after that, the first woman falls and then all the sound goes muffled and you're in the character's heads, aren't you? You're in Danny's head. She's just in shock what she's just seen.
Yeah.
And you're in shock because you've just seen it too. And then you got the English bloke, fucking hell, but it's all muffled. And it's like a real whiny sound, isn't it? And you're in this clouded, muffled soundscape throughout the whole scene until the next one falls. And then when he dies, then it's back to normal noise and him just going, and everyone starts wailing and making painful screams as well. And that's the parts of this that freak me out, is how they all mimic everything, don't they? Like the sex scene. They're all there, all them naked women are there just moaning and groaning. And then when Danny witnesses the sex scene and then she's heartbroken because her boyfriend is having sex with another girl, and then she goes off sobbing and all the girls follow her and they're all sobbing with her and they're mimicking her. It's horrible. And it's like I say in this film that you don't feel claustrophobic, but you do. There is still that claustrophobia in those scenes. You can't get away from all that wailing and that. It's fucking strange. So I mean, I've mentioned in here that the shots are great, but the musical score, really atmospheric, isn't it? Really piercing, just as disturbing as the imagery you're looking at. Lots of elongated, repetitive notes and whining, screeching strings. And then the music that they play as well is in the festival is quite... Yeah, I love it. I loved it. So much going on in here, Nath. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, interesting film, mate.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure I'll be watching it again, though.
No.
Nah.
I bet I watch it again.
Oh, I'm sure you'll watch it again, yeah.